that is my main TBR. Those are the 11 books that I plan on reading. And
when you wear the skirt like this, you're gonna have to wear actual undies, like not box undies.
You're right. Oh my god.
It's my head.
Like panties?
Yeah.
Hello. Just me and my best friend Basquiat over here. Okay. Welcome to the ending of this week's video. Wow, my hair looks so fucking good right now. Like, can we just take one moment to appreciate the locks? I'm just gonna give you a little 360. And then from the other side. And then from the top. And then, hold up. Look at this. See the movement? Okay. I'm gonna check my reading notebook. Beloved was March. I started The Count of Monte Cristo, so maybe I'm thinking The Count of Monte Cristo counts, but I'm not done with it yet. And we're in May now, so that doesn't count. So A Room of One's Own, Passing, If You Got Anything Stronger, that's it. Those were the 3 books that I read in April. My goal was to read 7 books. I read 4, and I finished 3, and that is progress. Nonetheless, my goal for May is to read 11 books. 11 books based on, hold on. One of them is just a continuation of something that I'm already reading. Oh shit, holy fuck. But these are the 11 books. These are the 11 books that I'm choosing to read for May. This is my May TBR. I'm gonna go through them really quick and tell you why I chose them. But largely, the reason why I chose them is because of this picture that I found on Pinterest. I'm gonna put it up here. Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's charging. Hold on. My phone's on like 2%, so I'm gonna try and see if I can do this as fast as I possibly can. So basically, this little, what would you call this? Reading prompt-ish, if you will, that I found on Pinterest just rolls off about, I think it's 12 different prompts for books to diversify your reading so that you don't stagnate in your comfort zone, is what it says, literally. And I honestly was just looking for something to syllabize, if that's a word, my reading, and this does exactly so. It kind of hits most of the points in reading that I want. What I was first going for was that I just wanted to read 1 book from every genre, but this kind of works for that. The first prompt is to read a biography from someone that you barely know anything about. And Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And I don't really know anything about this book. I picked it up one day in Barnes & Noble because, if you can see, it has a buy one get one 50% off sticker on here. And I'm addicted to buying books, so that's part of the reason. But also, I think she's black. And someone told me, or I think recently I've heard, I bought this book like a year ago, but recently I've heard that she was one of the victims in like a Brock Turner sexual assault case. And she didn't get spoken about because she's black. So she wrote her own book saying, like, this is what, like, you guys could have said about me in the media. And that's this book. But I don't really know too much about it, and I kind of just picked it up because it was a black writer. That's that box. The second one is to read a novel that was originally written in a language other than English, and then it says for hard mode, avoid Russian or French literature. And fortunately for me, I have a shit ton of Russian and French literature, so I can, like, that category will always be filled. But I kind of want to do hard mode, but not for me. It's not really hard mode because I speak Spanish and I can interpret it 100%. But the book that I chose for that is Pedro Paramo by Juan Rulfo, translated by Margaret Sayers Peden, with a foreword by Susan Sontag. And this is the cover, and I got this book from, I think, Emmy's channel on YouTube, and I'm reading it because I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this book is what inspired 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I want to read that book, but I want to read this one first if it inspired that one, and plus it's so much shorter, so it's going to be so much easier to fulfill the requirement. It's 115 pages. I think I can probably read this in a day mode, because I'm going for hard mode. Also, I don't know if I have completed 11 books in a month since I was like fucking 13 or 14, so we'll see how this goes. The next one is to read a book first published on the African continent, and I don't own that, sadly. I feel like that says something about me, but I'm working on it. But the book that I chose for that is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I read this book for summer reading in like, I don't know, one of my younger years, and it wasn't published on the African continent, but it is an African writer, author, and the book does take place on the African continent for a little bit. So I feel like it kind of checks that box, and this is the book that I'm going to be reading. And it's about a child soldier, I believe. I don't remember too much what this is about, which is why I want to reread it, because I wish I had my original copy. I wonder what happened to that. The next one is to read poetry by a non-US American or a non-British poet, and for that I chose Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke, and he is a German writer, and technically these are letters, not poetry, but he's a poet, and this is like, of all of his works that I own, this is the one I want to read first, so I'm going to count this for that category. And this was letters that he wrote to someone who, I guess, wrote to him asking for advice on like how to be a famous creative person, and apparently he writes very beautifully, and from what I've heard of his writing, it sounds like me, so I'm going to read it. And this is another short one, so I think I can get through it pretty quickly, although I think you're meant to read this. There's a word for when you read things over a certain period of time. Read a play that's not written by Shakespeare. Luckily for me, I have a nice stack of plays here because I've been collecting plays, because plays are now interesting to me. I like plays that don't have music in them. But the play that I chose is Fences by August Wilson, because I saw the movie adaptation on Netflix a couple months ago and it made me bawl my eyes out, and I'm pretty sure it was starring Viola Davis. Was it Viola Davis? Can you hear me, babe? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Was it Viola Davis that was in that play?
What play?
No, because it just came out on Netflix.
I swear, I know all the Denzel movies and plays up.
This just came out on Netflix.
I've never seen that in my life.
This is based on the movie adaptation starring Viola Davis on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's really good. It made me cry. It's a tearjerker, and I just want to know if this is like parallel to the screen. And it's again another short one. Yeah, 100 pages exactly, which is crazy. 101. So I'm hoping I can get through this in a night. And I feel like if I can sit down and watch a movie for 2.5 hours, I should be able to sit down and read 100 pages for the same amount of time. The next prompt is to read or go to the library or bookstore and pick up a novel that you've never heard of, which looks interesting. I don't want to go to the library nearby me because they don't have a great selection of books. And I'm not going to a further library because I'm just not going out of my way. However, there are 2 little libraries in my area, and I went to one of them and I picked up a book because honestly the cover looked pretty, and I feel like I saw someone talking about this book on YouTube and they said it was like, no, I feel like I saw like a short somewhere and it was like a black creator, like a black like reader creator. I don't know if that doesn't make sense, but I feel like they said that this author was black, and after I looked it up, this author is not black, they're white. But I took the book anyway because it was a little library, so this was free, and I was like, if I don't like it, I can always bring it back. But I think I flipped through it and I saw that the writing was easy to get through, and then came home one night, sitting at the table, and I'm reading one page and it's like literally the most dry vanilla sex I've ever read in my life. and I kept going, and it was just dry but compelling. Like, I sat there, and in 5 minutes I read like 20 pages, and as much as I don't like the content, it captivated me and it compelled me to read, and I think that that is important. So I would like to know what it is that I don't like about it, and I think it would be very, like, it's okay to read things that you don't enjoy, and wow, English 7. It's okay to read things that you don't enjoy, and I think it's going to be very, what's the word? What's the word that I'm looking for? I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I know that it's going to help me. Like, it's one of those things where, like, it's okay to have friends that you don't disagree with, that you don't agree with, kind of thing, because if you agreed with all your friends, then you would just have a very small, like, specific type of friend group, and, like, in order to have a vast, diverse array of, like, ideas in your mind and not be like one biased jerk or asshole, you need to listen to the stories of like tons of people. And as much as I hate shitty, dry, like unhealthy, toxic relationship romance, it is okay for me to consume them and critique them nonetheless, because they are literature just as much as anything else that I love is literature. Hence the reason I like this list of prompts, because it is opening me up to a variety of things, which is exactly what I want. It's exactly why I want to go back to school, but right now I can't afford to do that, so this is what we're going to do instead. Nonetheless, this is the book that I chose that I've never heard before. Next is to read a book written by a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and of course I had to choose none other than the love of my life. Well, she's not the love of my life, but one of my favorite authors, Miss Toni Morrison, whose stack I have revolving back here. For Miss Toni, I chose something that encompasses this prompt and the next prompt, which is also to read a nonfiction about a historical era that interests you. And obviously anything Black history interests me, and this book is an essay by Toni Morrison called Playing in the Dark, Whiteness, and the Literary Imagination. I don't know anything about it at all. I just know that it's one of the books that I've collected of hers when I was in the process of trying to collect all of her works. It is nonfiction, it is an essay, she's a Nobel Prize winner, and it is about an era that I have interest in, and it is American Black history, because I know nothing about it, being the child of an immigrant who was raised ignorantly. So, this is the book that I chose for that category, and I'm excited to see how it expands my mind and my knowledge on the Black experience in America pre 21st century. Okay, we did read a book by a Nobel Prize winner, read a nonfiction book about a historical era that interests you. Another one for that prompt that I did, although the Toni book definitely encompasses those prompts, but a historical era that interests me. Right now, I'm currently reading about the, why can't I speak? About the Napoleonic Wars and the Reign of Terror during the French Revolution, I think. I'm not too great on history, but that's exactly why I'm reading this book, because during all of my global history classes, I just didn't pay attention because it really stressed me out to memorize things about other parts of the world when we weren't there. I didn't see the point in it. But now, as an adult, I completely understand the point of knowing history, because in order to understand why the world is the way that it is, we have to learn the history of the world. However, the history of the world is biased and made up of a whole bunch of different ideas and opinions, especially if you're looking for the history of the world in mass media. Because it's extremely censored and beyond the point, but books are the greatest form that we are going to find it in, and hence the reason I'm reading The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And Alexander Dumas, if you don't know, was one of the few Black aristocrats or descendants of a Black aristocrat, because his father, who was a slave, was brought to France and freed on French soil. which is why I think in this book we have a character who is Monte Cristo's sex slave, and once they come to France, he tells her that she's free to go, and she knows that she's free to go, and she goes, why would I go? What reason do I have to go? And I'm like, oh, imagine someone like loving you that much that they're just like your slave and devoted to you, and they think that they don't have a reason to go when their freedom is like presented to them. But also he's kind of, I don't know if you're meant to like love or hate this guy. I guess in this time period I would hate this guy because what he's doing to everyone is grooming them with his money. But in this time period I completely understand why these people wouldn't leave him, because if you were broke and you had a rich man who fulfilled all of your desires and all you had to do was exist with him and he wasn't cruel, I would be with him too. But nonetheless, my book was being held together by a scrunchie because the first page and cover have fell off, and I haven't bought any bookbinding materials in order to fix it yet. But yeah, I'm 300 pages in, 50% of the book is completed, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. We are finally at the meat and potatoes of the book, and I'm genuinely enjoying the fact that I know that Danglars is about to receive the ultimate revenge. I don't know what Edmund has planning, or Monte Cristo I should say, but I love that. I love that I can't predict what's going to happen. I half predicted. I feel like he's going to try and murder his wife with the poison, but I just really have absolutely no idea, and I'm just like waiting for the most terrible things to happen to them, just like he suffered for the last like 20 years. And like, when is he going to get a chance to get his girl back? Like, when? She's married and has a kid. Like, is he gonna get his girl back? I don't know. But I am enthralled and excited to read the last 300 pages of this, and if it ends poorly, I'm gonna be so fucking mad. But I have this, The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas, and this one I've been reading since the beginning of March, and it is the beginning of May. It's been 2 months, and yes, I'm taking my time, and no, I don't care. The next book is to read a collection of essays, and I'm not too excited about that one, and I don't know if I'm going to finish this one. And honestly, I might skip one of these last 2 prompts because I am in a book club in which I have to read another book, so if I can just cross out one of those prompts and read my book club book instead, that'd be fine. That's still completing 11 books for the month, which wasn't even my goal. It was just based off these prompts. And it's okay if I don't complete all of these books. I just want to complete some of them, or at least start most of them, which is why I picked some short ones, because I feel like shorter books are easier to get through and it'll get me in a reading mood. But the book that I chose for the essays, and I'll tell you about my book club pick later, is On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, and it's 20 lessons from the 20th century on tyranny. I don't remember where I got this book from. I think I got it for free from St. Margaret's, but I do remember once going to the Strand and seeing this book for sale. So another short one, it's like a bunch of short essays on tyranny, like Be Reflective If You Must Be Armed is one of the titles, or Establish a Private Life, or Contribute to Good Causes. And yeah, this seems like something you could keep on your bedside table or in your bag and read on the train real quick, and it's just like some little thoughts. And I personally, as a writer, plan on writing a book of essays, so I love this prompt because the more I become acquainted with essay style of writing, or 21st century essay style writing, then the more I'll understand what people want. Not that I care to please people, but just, research purposes. The last and final prompt of this lovely long list of prompts is to read something written before 1500 AD. And for that I chose one of my beautiful little black classics back here. But I pulled out some of my Penguin classics. Some of my little black classics here out of the set. Just some ones that I'm interested in reading, just so that I feel like I love this shelf and it's aesthetically pleasing, but I don't really gravitate towards it very much. And because it's kind of intimidating. Classics are intimidating. As much as I love classics, they are intimidating. And I never know where to start. I think that's the problem. I just don't know where to start. Last night, because I knew that I was going to be planning or picking out books for my May TBR in the morning. Last night I went and pulled all of the books that interested me, all of the authors that I've recently done research on, and Sappho's Come Close. If you don't know who Sappho is, I want to say she was a lesbian writer from Lesbos, from the island of Lesbos, which I guess in Greek mythology is an island of lesbians. And she was born in 630 BCE and died 570 BCE, so literature. I don't understand BCE and like the time period, whatnot, because like who, what, like it just doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, I do believe that she did, and beyond the point. This little black classic here, this teensy little thing, but again, it's another little short one. It's about 60 pages, and it says on the back, "Come Close" is a sensual, sun-soaked verse on love and the gods in ancient Greece, from the poet named the 10th Muse by Plato. And then the last book that I have in my TBR for May, which is not at all a prompt. I chose this of my own accord for my own book club that I host. It's Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. Now, I'm not very familiar with Octavia Butler. I know she's a black writer. I know she wrote Kindred. I know there's a TV adaptation of her book, Kindred. I haven't read it. I do own it, and I do want to read it. But I chose this book solely because I think I was scrolling on one of the social media platforms, YouTube or Instagram, and I saw that someone else had it as an option for their book club pick, and I chose it because I thought that it would get chosen for their book club pick, and I haven't really followed up. But if it does, it would be nice to read along with another book club and see what their thoughts are. So I chose Parable of the Sower. And it's also really interesting because it's set in 2020s, like now, and I don't ever read anything contemporary like set now. So, like usually the most contemporary thing I read is set in like 2017 or 13 or early 2000s. So it's going to be really interesting to read something that like recently came out and is like terrifying. That is my May TBR. Those are the 11 books that I plan on reading, and I hope you come along with me for the journey over the next few weeks. And if you want to see me talk about these books and at the end of this month write a very long essay on one of these books, then continue watching / subscribe to my channel / watch all of my other videos